Hey guys, it's me, Crystal, and today I'm going to show you how to make the striped loom knit hat. For this hat, I'm using my 48 peg knitting loom and my hook, and you're also going to need a stitch marker, and I'm just placing that on a random peg, and that'll be my starting peg. My yarn is Amigo Chunky, and I got this from Hobby. It's a number 5 bulky yarn. It's acrylic, and 109 yards is in a skein. And I grabbed two colors. These are right next to each other in the color palette on Hobby. This is number 38, and the other one is number 39. I believe they're called Cognac and Curry. I will link all that in the description. And to start, I'm using the oranger colored one and making a slip knot. And I'm just going to place the slip knot on the peg that has the stitch marker, and then tighten it up. And then we're going to do our cast on, and we're just doing an E-wrap cast on, and it's very, very simple. So you're just going to start, I'm going to the left, you can either go to the left or the right, and you're just going to wrap around each peg, and it's called an E-wrap because it looks like a lowercase cursive letter E. And you're just going to do that all the way around. And just be careful you don't accidentally let go of it and they all come off, which happens to me every once in a while. So hold on with your other hand just to keep everything in place. But you're going to get all the way back around to the beginning. And once you do that, you're going to slide all the loops you just did down to the bottoms of the pegs. And then you're going to make another row of E-wraps going the same way, just above the first row, and go all the way back around to the beginning. Then once you get back to the beginning and you have two loops on each peg, you're just going to start knitting the bottom loop up, over, and off of the top loop. So just bring it over the top loop and off the peg, and you're going to do that all the way around. Once you get all the way back to the beginning, you're going to go ahead and push all your loops back down to the bottoms of the pegs. And you're going to repeat. So that was the cast on row, and now we're going to do 15 rows of E-wrap knitting to make the brim portion of our hat. So here we go. We've done 15 rows, and now I'm going to show you how to turn it into a brim. So just bring your yarn to the front if it isn't already, and we're going to find that starting peg, and you're going to follow this row of stitches all the way down to the beginning side of your hat there, right next to the little slip knot that we made. And we're going to take that loop that my hand is holding right there and bring it up and around, and you're going to slide it onto that first peg. So just make sure you get the right loop for this first one, and then the rest will be easy to figure out. So just slide it back onto that peg. And then you're going to just put all the loops from each stitch on that edge onto each peg. So I'm starting here on the left, just grab that next loop to the left, and put it on the next peg, and then do the same thing with the next one. And you're just going to continue that around, and if you're just careful, it's really easy, and you'll have one loop for each peg, and just repeat that all the way around until you get back to the other side. All right, so now we have all of the brim loops put on the peg. And now we just have to knit the bottom loop up and over the top loop and off the peg. And this is going to form the brim of our hat. So just do that all the way around, and then you're going to go back to E-wrap knitting, and you're going to E-wrap knit 5 more rows after the brim. And then we're going to start changing things up. So here's our brim and our 5 rows of knitted E-wrap knitting with the same color. Now we're going to grab our other color. And what you're going to do is you're just going to take your first color of yarn and cut it, leaving about a 5 or 6 inch tail that we can weave in later. And then you're going to grab your other color, and you're just going to hold them together and just tie an overhand knot, and don't worry about getting it like super close down by the stitches. I left a little space, and when we're done, you'll go through and tie them a little bit tighter to get rid of any excess space in your stitches there. So just tie it pretty close down there, but it's okay if there's a little bit of slack like that. And you just kind of hold it off on the back while we're doing our first stitch, and then you'll tighten it up later. So now we're going to do purl stitches. To do that, you have to go under the loops. So you hold your yarn like this under the loop of the first stitch, and you take your hook and you go down through the loop above it. You scoop up that bottom yarn and you pull a loop through like that. And there we go. So far, so good. Then you're going to pinch that whole loop in the original stitch and you're going to take it off the peg. And then you're going to put the new loop you just made on the peg and then pull your yarn to tighten that loop up. And then I also just kind of pulled where my yarn was joined just to make sure that everything was where I want it. And like I said, we're going to tighten that up at the end, so don't worry about it. And then you're just going to repeat. Hold the yarn under the loop, scoop it up with your hook, pull up a loop, take the stitch off the peg, put the new loop on the peg, and tighten it up. These stitches take a little bit longer than the knit stitches, but it's really not too bad once you get the hang of it. So you're going to just go ahead and do that for 5 rows. And we're just going to alternate this, going back and forth doing 5 rows of knit and then 5 rows of purl and changing color each time. So now we're at the end of our 5th purl row. So it'll look like this at this point. And now we're going to switch back to our first color and do another 5 rows of E-wrap knit. So I'm going to push my loops down since I know I'm going to be knitting this next one. I need to be at the bottom of the pegs. And again, I'm going to cut my yarn, leaving about a 5 or 6 inch tail. Grab my other color of yarn and same thing, this time I'm just tying a regular knot, whatever that's called, a square knot maybe. And either way, it doesn't matter. And then you're just going to go back to your E-wrap knitting. And like I said, don't worry if your knot isn't perfectly down by the stitches. We're going to tighten them up at the end. That was the easiest way I could figure to make it really nice and neat. And then you're just going to do your E-wrap row here. You're going to do 5 rows like this. And you're just going to repeat this alternating pattern until you have 35 rows all together after the brim row. So you'll just do 5 of knit, 5 of purl, 5 of knit, 5 of purl, and change color each time. All right, so here's my hat so far. I have 35 rows after the brim, and I ended with a knit section. So now what we're going to do is finish off. So you're going to take your yarn that you have attached right now, you're going to wrap it all the way around your loom. And I gave it a little extra bonus yarn just to be safe. And cut your yarn, and this is what we're going to use to finish it off. So you're going to grab a large eye yarn needle, thread on your yarn, and then you're just going to thread your needle up and under the loop. If we're going to the left this whole time, just continue doing that and pull the yarn through. And go up and under the next one and pull the yarn through. And you can pull the loops off as you go if you want, off of each peg. But I decided just to go ahead and sew through each one and then take all the loops off at the end. So that is what I'm doing. And here we are, the last loop. And now that we've gone under each one, we can just start pulling them off of the pegs. The first few pegs, it's easier to use the hook, but then after you get a few off, they come off pretty easily. And you're just going to take all of the loops off of the pegs. And there we go. And now it's time to cinch up the top of our hat. This is very satisfying. So just pull the yarn and your hat will cinch up on the top. And at first it's kind of tricky to get this hole closed, but I'll show you how to close it really nice and secure. First I just pull it, and then once I get it pulled pretty well, I feed the needle down through into the inside And then what you're going to do is flip your hat inside out. And then we're going to run the needle around the row where the hole is. We're going to go around through again just to make it extra secure. So we're not, sometimes if you pull the yarn too hard, it can just break. So I just want to make sure it's really secure in there with 2 rows of yarn. And there, I made it all the way around. I didn't show it, but I did go all the way around the hole. And now I'm just pulling it really tight, and then I'm going to sew across the hole in like a plus sign kind of shape to really cinch it up. So first you go across the center and pull that to tighten it. And then we're going to go across the other way. So I went from here to here, and now I'm going to go up here and then down there. And then it just kind of really makes sure that your hole won't come back open. Because if you don't do this, sometimes after like you wash it a few times or something, it will just come open and you'll have to fix it. So then you go down and then pull it really good and tight. And then you're just going to tie a really nice secure knot through one of these stitches here. And I usually tie a couple knots. Once you get the knots tied, you can just feed the end down under a few stitches and then cut off the excess thread. And now we're going to address all these ends. So what I did is I just went through and I untied half of the knot and then just pulled it to tighten it and then retied it. And that way you know there's not a gap there or any weird spaces. So just don't pull too tight. Just pull it till it's just snug. You don't want to like pucker it up. And then retie your knot, and then you don't have to worry about any strange gaps or anything. And then just go through and weave all your ends under some stitches and cut off the excess thread. And I did like color with like color just to be safe. And just repeat that for all of your loose ends. And then your hat is complete. And then we can add one more finishing touch, which I thought would be fun, is a pom-pom. And I'm using the gold color here for my pom-pom. And I'm using my Clover pom-pom maker. This is a large sized one, and I'll link this down below. Or you can use any method you like to use to make pom-poms. And these are super easy to use. You just take your yarn, you open up the side, you wrap it around a whole bunch of times until it's so wrapped you can barely close it, and that makes a really nice puffy pom-pom. And you close that, cut the yarn on that side, repeat on the other side. And then you just, there's this little channel that goes down the side, and you just cut the yarn all the way down the channel, all the way around, which is very satisfying. Probably one of my favorite parts of making the pom-poms. And once you get it cut all the way around, you're going to grab another piece of yarn that's maybe like a foot long or so, and you're going to wrap it around this channel and pull it until it goes like inside the channel like that. And then you're just going to tie a knot, pull it down really good and tight, tie another knot, and then I flip it around and pull the yarn on the other side and do it again just to be extra safe. I have kids and they are hard on pom-poms. Then you open the whole thing up and then you pry the two sides apart, and pom-pom magic. But it is kind of scraggly looking, so now we're going to trim it really good. So hold on to those long ends and trim the bejesus out of it, and then it'll look like this. And get rid of all of that. Now we're going to attach it to our hat. So you'll just need your large eye needle again and thread one end of the string through it. And we're going to go not in the middle, but just to the side of the hole. And that way it tends to hold on better if you do it like that. Instead of putting them down the center, it's easier to tie it so it's really nice and secure and on there. So just pull it down through, and then you're going to take the other end and you're going to do the same thing, but we're going to go down the opposite side of the hole. So we're there, and we'll go on the opposite side and insert our needle right there and pull it down through. Now, if you wanted to make this pom-pom removable, you could. I've seen people take like a button with two holes and do it on the inside and then like tie it around the button and just tie it in like a a bow or something, and then you can remove the pom-pom if you want to wash it. I'm just tying it on here though. This thing is staying put as far as I'm concerned. So just bring it through to the inside and you're going to tie a really good knot, pull it nice and tight so you don't end up with a dingly pom-pom. That happens sometimes. And then I'm going to tie an overhand knot too, just to really make sure it is on there and not going anywhere. And then cut off your excess a little bit. I just was evening up the ends and then I'm threading them onto my yarn needle. And I'm gonna feed them down through a few stitches to really make sure. That way if I have to retighten it at some point, I have some yarn to work with. Once you get it all woven in, you're just gonna cut off the excess and your hat is complete. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you did, please leave a like, comment, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of my future videos. Thanks for watching!